We had a question, Dee, didn't we?
We did have a question.
The question was, how do you know if the grips you have are the right thickness for you?
And was that from, who was that from?
That was from Kaz. Thank you, Kaz.
Did Kaz do one of our Go Into Water schools?
Kaz came to our 3-day golf school. There's a link in the description if you would like to come to one of our schools. And she was saying she's got her grips and she understands that, you're supposed to have the right thickness. So how does she know if the ones she's got are right?
Okay, that's a good question.
It is a good question because it's quite important.
And I think it's a foolproof way to do it. It's been around for a long time, and we're just assuming that you've got no issues with your hands or anything. So
before you give us the answer, Dee, what happens if they're too thin for you or too thick for you?
Okay, generally, from my experience, if they're too thin for me, my grip will be incorrect. But what will happen is I will generally tend to hook the ball a lot. So the club face closes. It's kind of
because you've got too much control.
Too much wobbling here. There's not enough padding there to help you.
And the opposite is true for too thick because the hands can't work properly.
Yeah, the hands can't work properly. So you really need, some little ducks arrived. You really need to have the correct grip size to allow you to do the best swing. But before we get onto that too, I've got people who have serious arthritis and really bad fingers that are really won't even close. So I have made their grips up for them so that they can still play golf. And their grips are different, thicker here, thinner here. They're padded all up. They're just made to fit,
to feel comfortable.
Yeah, for them.
Be custom made.
So they're custom made. So. Think if you've got bad arthritis, you can just go and get your grips made up especially. You know what I mean? You can do that. And then you'll still be out playing golf. And the idea is to move, so at least you're still out playing.
But for the average golfer, what's the quickest and easiest way to tell if your grips are right for you?
The way I like, and I know there may be some others, is that you've got to have the correct left-hand grip. So I always start with my hand in this position. I'm placing it from the little finger to there. We could show a video on that. And then I'm just closing my fingers without being too tight. Shall we zoom in on this?
Go in a little bit closer.
And when you come in, when I'm doing this here, you can see that this finger here is just gently touching. And I've got it in the right position that this pad is hanging over a little bit. A lot of people, if the grip is too thick for them, they tend to get it too much in the palm and they go, oh, but look, it's touching, Dennise, but it's too much in the palm. So you need to make sure that your grip is resting in the correct spot.
So get the pad on top.
Get the pad sort of right on top, just underneath this little bit here, just underneath there, on that line to there. And then when you close, the fingers should just touch. Just touch. And it's got to be a light grip. You don't want it tight.
So in other words, you don't want your fingers digging right into that pad, and you don't want a gap either.
Yeah, so it's this pad here.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That pad there.
Yeah, so it's under there.
Gotcha.
Under that pad, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't got a club, so it's hard.
So I think sometimes when people have too thick a grip, it tends to get, if their grip's too thick, it tends to get too high in the palm.
Yes,
Which then, you and I both know, Annie, if the grip's out because the grips are too thick, you start getting this bowing of the wrists, all sorts of disasters. You're going to hurt yourself.
Yep. I was looking up around the internet, and there was some advice out there about this, saying that you can use your golf glove as a guide. Now, that's kind of true, isn't it, to a point? So if you've got a small hand and using a small grip, then if you've got a small hand using a small glove, then small grips are going to suit you better, and vice versa. If you've got, a large one, you're going to use larger grips. But the end result of the acid test will be if those fingers just touch slightly without digging in or without leaving a gap, basically.
Exactly. And I think it's really important to make sure you've got the correct grip, because you will injure yourself if you don't. It's going to lead to lots of swing faults. And it can all start by your grip being too thick, and that happens to a lot of beginner people and a lot of ladies, because the clubs are handed down to them.
Yes, that's why you should get fitted for your clubs if you possibly can.
And for juniors, it's a killer for juniors.
Yes. And how many women take up the game and their husband gives them the clubs, or they're an old set from the garage and they're too heavy and everything's wrong with them. So try and avoid that if you can. If you can't afford to buy a whole set,
Get one.
Just get a 7-iron or something, or get 2 or 3 clubs and start small and work your way up, but get fitted if you possibly
That
can.
was a great question, Kaz, and grip size is vital. One other thing I just thought of, which I do quite a bit with my students, you can see most grips taper in, means they get thinner here.
Yeah.
I have a lot of students where I'll have it the same thickness all the way down, because then that makes the right hand work a little bit better, I've found. So I always experiment with that with people.
How would you do that? Would you put tape underneath?
You just put tape underneath it. Some companies have actually now, I've forgotten the name of the company, they have the grips already made up to that size. So it's the same thickness all the way down, which kind of makes it easier for the right hand not to get too involved. So that's a really good idea. So, and if you're using a 2-handed baseball grip, having the same thickness is a really good way to go as well.
There's an interesting
That's an interesting
tip.
one for you, Kaz.
Thank you so much for the question, Kaz. If anyone else has got any questions that they would like us to answer, we are more than happy to.
We'll just ramble on and
we do a lot of that.
ramble, and we'll give you lots of answers. But send us in the questions.
Yeah, and put them in the comments below.
And if you want to come to Corinda or any of our other things, get in now.
Yeah, come to a golf school. We'll sort your grip out in person.
Bye for now. Have any other questions? We could just have a series of answering questions.
We could. I don't know of any other questions we have though. Anyone have any questions? All right. We've had a question from John.
Who do I know? Ken. Okay.
Should we do Steve, because he sounds younger.
Steve, yeah, I like Steve.
We've had another question, Dee, from Steve this time, and this is a really common question that we get. It's all about sort of initiating the swing, that first motion, and people can get stuck, can't they, with that early part of the swing?
Absolutely. And we've got people on the tee.
Oh, all right, let's stop then. God, that was really good. That was my best starting ever.
That was okay. We rambled.